$17?
Thank you.
We also have this for you. Held in safekeeping for 15 years.
My name is Thomas. A few years back, on a scorching hot Friday, I was standing in a bank lobby with just $17 in my pocket. In my hand was a letter. A letter that was about to tear down everything I thought I knew about my family. It said I was the secondary holder of a safe deposit box opened by my grandfather back in 1982. I was only 6 years old then. The letter also said this box had racked up over $600 in back fees, and if I wanted to open it, I had to pay. I'd never even heard of this box. My grandfather, Edward Martinez, was a legend to me, but I never knew he'd attached my name to anything. He was the man who taught me how to shift gears in an old Kenworth truck. The man who built a trucking empire, Valley Freight Solutions, from a single borrowed rig. He was also the man whose company was handed over to my Uncle Kenneth in a will that never sat right with any of us. At 48 years old, life was hitting me hard. I'd been laid off from a warehouse job I held for 21 years. I was fighting tooth and nail just to keep my daughter, Sophia, in college. I'd sold my truck. I'd pawned my father's watch. I was working odd jobs, donating plasma. Anything to scrape together enough cash for her tuition and books. So, when a bank demanded nearly $700 for a mystery box, every logical part of me said to just throw the letter away. But I couldn't. Something about my grandfather's signature on that old document. It pulled me in. I thought about Uncle Kenneth, the polished Wall Street nephew. He'd swooped in right after my own father passed away, claiming he was the only one with the expertise to run the business. He'd sold it last year for $500 million, leaving my mom, my sister Monica, and me with nothing but holiday cards and a few pity checks. For 15 years, my family lived under the shadow of that will, feeling cheated and forgotten. But this letter, this box, it felt like a whisper from the past. A feeling that Grandpa hadn't forgotten me after all. So I started hustling. I cleaned gutters, I moved furniture, I donated more plasma. I pawned things I still regret letting go of. Finally, I was back at that bank. I had $630 in my hand. I was short. $52.50 short. I walked up to the counter and explained my situation to the branch manager, a woman named Mrs. Winters. I admitted I didn't have the full amount. I expected her to turn me away, but instead she looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in a very long time. Compassion. She was silent for a moment, then she opened up this old, dusty leather ledger on her desk. She scanned the pages and then said softly, "Mr. Martinez, your grandfather actually prepaid the fees all the way through 2025, the letter you received? It appears to be an error." I knew she was lying. The look in her eyes told me everything. She was bending the rules for me. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, a stranger cared enough to give me a break. She led me down to the vault. My hands were trembling as I pulled out box 3184. I took a deep breath, turned the key, and lifted the lid. And in that instant, my entire world split right in half. Inside, nestled on old velvet, were 52 gleaming gold coins from my great-grandfather. Underneath them were original Apple IPO stock certificates from 1984, now worth a fortune. And at the very bottom were 2 letters, both addressed to me. I unfolded the first one. The handwriting was shaky, but the words were crystal clear. It began, "If you're reading this, Thomas, then Kenneth has done what I feared." The truth was finally coming out. Grandpa wrote that letter shortly before he passed away. He confessed that while he was sick and heavily medicated, Uncle Kenneth had brought him stacks of papers to sign. He disguised them as medical forms, insurance documents, routine bills. Grandpa, lost in a fog of painkillers, signed them all. One of those papers was a new will, a complete betrayal that gave Kenneth everything. A hospice nurse named Teresa had figured out what was happening and told him. In a brief moment of clarity, my grandfather understood the full scope of Kenneth's deception. He was too weak to fight it head-on, but he could plan. He secretly recorded a 95-minute video confession, had it notarized and witnessed, laying out every single detail of what Kenneth had done. He explained his real intention for the company, that it should belong to his grandchildren, and that I should be its executor. He sent the recording to his law firm to be held in a sealed evidence file under a code name, the Sanchez Contingency, to be released only when I personally asked for it. The second letter was much older, dated 1982, from the day he opened the box. It read, "Thomas, today you helped me fix a tire on the old rig. You wouldn't take $1 for it. You were 6. You said, 'Family helps family.' I put your name on this box the very same day. Truth waits for the moment it's needed. When you find this, it will be your moment." I broke down right there in that tiny vault room. I just pressed my forehead against the cool metal table and cried. After all those years of feeling like I was failing, of feeling forgotten, here was proof. Someone had believed in me. Someone had left a light on for me in the dark. Mrs. Winters saw the look on my face. My car had died that very morning, so she handed me her keys without a second thought. I drove straight to the law firm. I walked in and told the receptionist I needed to see the senior partner. When he came out, I looked him in the eye and said the 5 words my grandfather had left for me. "Open the Sanchez Contingency." The attorney gasped like a man waking from a nightmare. With shaking hands, he retrieved a dusty file from a locked cabinet. Inside was everything: the video confession, the nurse's notarized statement, medical records proving Grandpa was heavily drugged, and his true final will, Valley Freight to be equally divided among his grandchildren, with me as the executor. 7 weeks later, we were all sitting in a glass conference room for mediation. Kenneth walked in with his team of expensive lawyers, that smug, arrogant look plastered across his face. He was expecting another easy win. Then my attorney dimmed the lights and played Grandpa's video. For 95 minutes, the room was silent as my grandfather's voice filled the space, telling the story of his own son's betrayal. The color drained from Kenneth's face. 15 years of lies were crumbling around him. My attorney turned to him and said calmly, "We don't need to prove forgery. We just need to prove undue influence on a dying, heavily medicated man. A jury will have to choose between a billionaire hedge fund manager and a grandson who worked in a warehouse for 21 years. Kenneth's lawyers started whispering frantically. He knew it was over. He couldn't win this fight. The settlement was sealed, but I can tell you what happened next. My daughter Sophia graduated from college completely debt-free. She then founded a nonprofit that helps other first-generation college students get through school. My sister Monica finally opened her dream restaurant. She calls it Edward's Table, and every Friday, she feeds truck drivers for free in honor of our grandfather. I used Grandpa's gold coins to start a new company, Martinez Family Freight. I hired back the loyal drivers Kenneth had cast aside. They have full benefits, profit sharing, and respect, the 3 things Grandpa always said mattered most. Even Kenneth's own daughter, Ashley, came to me months later. She wanted to learn the business the right way, from the ground up. She works in dispatch now with a humility that surprises me every day. And as for Mrs. Winters, the bank manager who changed my life, I went back to see her. She told me my own father was cheated out of his business once. Sometimes the world just needs someone willing to break a small rule for a little bit of justice. She was right. Today, I keep exactly $682.50 locked in my office safe. It's a reminder of the fee that nearly kept my family's justice buried forever. A reminder that compassion is a strength, not a weakness. And that the truth, no matter how long it has to wait, always arrives. Painted on the side of every single truck in my fleet are 4 simple words. Family helps family. It's how my grandfather built his empire. And now, finally, his legacy rests where it always belonged. Thank you for listening.